Abibi Fahodier Black family, welcome again to the School of Urban Philosophy, where we always straight up, straightforward, and straight to the point, where we use information to empower our people, Black people, to push us forward. As always, we want to give thanks and praise to those of you who join us, who tune in. Give thanks and honor to those of you who share the live, and always remember to subscribe to the channel. You don't do anything else, subscribe to the channel. And as always, we will, in fact, bring you a profound dialogue, because that's what we pride ourselves on doing. Bringing our people information and knowledge that's going to move us forward, that's going to inspire us as a people to either do one or two things. We're going to come deeper into the process of African sovereignty, African liberation, or we're going to retreat from the process, because there's no middle passage, Black man and Black woman. Let me say that again. There is no middle passage. Either we're going to come deeper into this process of African sovereignty, or we're going to retreat from the process. But I submit to you, Black man and Black woman, that part of your task is to join the process and be a part of those of us that's championing African sovereignty. As always, we come straight from our chest, we come straight from the heart. Every now and then we may come and have a topic that we thought about beforehand. But in most cases, we just get on here and we just talk. I start off talking about something, or one of the brothers or one of the sisters start off talking about something. And then from there, we find our way to transition into whatever we want to talk about. The infamous African is always my brother. Thank you. Ifa Bamala, Abibi Fahodier, race first to both of you brothers. We appreciate you for tuning in, to rocking with us, to rolling with us. At any point during this discussion, if you want to join the discussion, just let us know, and we'll bring you on with us. But I'm going to pass it around to my comrades, see how they doing. How y'all men doing tonight? Tommy, Adisa?
Doing great, Baba. He had high chest out. I do have something that I wanted to talk about. I've been looking at, it's a hot topic, and the reason why it's a hot topic is because I look at a lot of people that step in the light of being leaders, right? And self-proclaimed leaders and things like that. And the one thing that I realize is that to be a leader is to be somebody that produces. Right there, it can't start with you and end with you. Like when you look at some organizations, you look at some social media people that come on there and they talk a good hustle and a good game, but their words start with them and end with them. You don't see, who's being birthed from this. I know what I mean, that from you, Baba, you got many people that come from the framework and the foundation that you laid down, that are thorough, that is doing the work, and that is consistent, right? And that's the thing that I struggle with when I see people that they take our knowledge and they take our ancestors' names, but they aren't living in a creative manner. They're not bringing about any warriors. They're not birthing any warriors from the work that they're doing. And the last time I checked, we need people to be able to win this war. We need authentic people that are dedicated to the advancement of us as a people to be able to win this war. We can't have African sovereignty if it starts with you and ends with you. So it's like, what is the continuation, right? Looking at that. And I know people talk about certain people that are doing this and doing that, but the first thing I ask is, who have they produced?
Great question. How you feeling about it, Tommy? What's the thoughts?
I'm feeling good. It's been a busy week. Never stopped being a busy week. I feel like since January of this year, but Feeling good, feeling great. It's been a productive day, so I'm happy about that. I agree, Baba D's. I very much agree, and I think that should be the fundamental question that's asked: who have they produced? What have they produced? Um, I actually ran into a homeboy today. I was out, was looking at different educational institutions that's around in our area. Just getting a feel for like what's out there. And I ran into one of my old homeboys, and it's funny because I see you got the race first flyer in your background. So I gave my homeboy a flyer. Let him know that I was trying to build with him. We gotta reconnect more. And you saying that kind of made me reflect on that. I think that within our legacy, one of the things that we gotta be mindful of, and this may be more so for me than for y'all too, because I know y'all have people such as myself who you can point toward and say, I have helped to create this, that, and the third. I have gone into building, person A, B, and C. And I also I feel for myself that's an aspect to where I now need to focus my attention on getting to a space where I've gone through a number of materials, just in terms of the actual, like the reading material, and then taking that reading material into real space, real places, engaging with our people on a number of different levels. I think that the ability to grasp somebody and then to bring somebody else through a process and then to have that person continue is a paramount and a testament. So I do wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. I think that is something that we have to look at, especially when it comes to building this movement to facilitate African sovereignty. That's what we're building towards. So that's my fear. In short, I'm good. I'm great. I'm building, and I'm looking forward. I'm excited for the future.
Great. So let's talk about leadership, since you brought it up, a decent leadership, because that is something that's thrown around a lot. And I like to think of it a number of ways. But one of the best ways to think about leadership is that leadership is never the title that's bestowed upon a person. Leadership is the capacity to that position. Leadership is the execution, it's not the title. Leadership is the performance and not the designation. Leadership is the actualization. And we miss that because we believe that leadership is so-and-so, you now supervisor, so-and-so, you a manager, so-and-so, you in charge. And we think that is the leadership. That just defines your responsibilities within a specific realm. But the leadership is the performance, it's the execution, and it's how you do that. And the key to being a leader is to serve, and we serve to impact the lives of other people. We serve to impact the lives of other people. So the leadership is the service that's geared towards impacting the lives of other people in such a way that those people will follow like suit and model themselves after the example that you have displayed. That's the leadership. And many individuals are not doing that because the purpose of knowledge is for us to recreate. It's to recreate and expand that knowledge within another vessel. That's what the work is about. It's like each one teach one, so they say, right? When you think about African people, we should be thinking in terms of perpetual development. And any of us who have assumed or who have been charged with the task of leadership in any capacity have to think in terms of how he or she is going to serve in such a way that it inspires other individuals. Because we have to transform lives so we can transform our existence as a people. Simple as that. We have to transform lives so we can transform the existence of our conditions as a people. Yeah? And it's not about popularity, because oftentimes we think the popularity is the leadership. So we caught up in that. So the profound leaders that are out here are oftentimes overlooked, which is no big deal, but I'm making a point. They're oftentimes overlooked because they are not popular in the sense that most people like popularity, flashy, swift with the maneuvering and manipulating the internet and the videographies and things of that nature. Most people, the most leaders that's doing the hardcore work may not be in that realm of doing all of that. So they don't generate that type of popularity. But they are transforming lives. Right? They are transforming lives. And so the leader, the Black leader specifically, we're going to qualify leader tonight. The Black leader must be of service. I like to say it like this right here. A trooper of truth and a warrior of justice. For us, a trooper of truth and a warrior of justice. For us, to lead is to champion. For us, to serve. For us, that's what this is about. But that's development. That's cultivation. To bring us to that awareness. That's a function of Black consciousness. Three sessions ago, we dealt with Black consciousness. So that's a function of Black consciousness. We can always determine where a person is at by what that person does. That's going to reflect his or her level of consciousness. It's because consciousness is motion. Consciousness is always activated. Consciousness isn't inactive. It's not, stagnant. Consciousness is dynamic. So you can assess consciousness. Right? You can evaluate it. You can make an estimation of it by what a person do. Right? And that's the leader. Leadership is execution. It's performance. High performance. Productive performance. Solution-oriented performance. Results-oriented performance. That's leadership. That's the Black leadership.
Ashe. Yeah, Baba. The reason why I asked that is because I'm always looking at my own character. I'm looking at how I'm conducting myself and making sure that I am leading by the example that I want for other people, to follow. Especially inside of the household with my family, in front of my children, my comrades, our people. Even amongst our enemy, I conduct myself in a way where as though that they're not going to be able to catch me slipping or put me in a 22 catch, right? The one thing I see a lot of us defaming and destroying other Black leadership for bragging rights and clout, and it only makes us look foolish. It makes us look like buffoons. It makes us look like, like there's no loyalty or unity, amongst us as a people, right? And the one thing I've never seen you do, Baba, is I've never seen you tear down leadership. I've never seen you do that. I've always seen you try to find ways to be able to be the example and set the tone, right? And I model after that because that's the leadership that has been given to me that I recognize as being authentic African-centered leadership. Everything that's in your books I see, and in your character and your conduct, and I mirror that by following the literature, right? I remember I talked to you at one time. I think we were writing, and I was up in New Jail, and we was having a conversation, and I was like, I follow the ideology. As long as I follow the ideology, right, no matter what another person does, right, I'm always going to be on the path, because even if one of my comrades and one of my brothers fall, if I'm following him and I'm only seeing his actions as being, primary, and not the ideology or, our way of life as being the example to set, then I'm going to fall. That's what keeps me grounded and it keeps me centered. That's why I can be in a space physically by myself, but I know that I'm in solidarity with my comrades no matter where they're at, because I'm following, the instructions. I'm following what has been laid down to be the code of conduct or the character. I see they got a question up there that you put up there, Bob. You wanted to answer that, or you want one of us to answer it?
I'm just highlighting it. I don't have to answer it.
So, is everyone a leader? I believe at times people are in positions to influence people, and it gives them the false illusion that they are a leader, because somebody might not know better. But when we look at the word leader, right, where are you leading them to, right? With leadership comes responsibility, being responsible for those, that are behind you, that you are setting the tone for. Like, so when we look at our future generation, like you look at a father, you look at a child, right? A father is supposed to lead his child, but if he's not the example that he wants his son to be, what happens? That child may fall to the conduct and the behavior, because, people say, do what I say and not what I do. But in true, authentic leadership, to my understanding, right, I'm going to do what I'm asking you to do plus more. I'm going to set the standard so high, to have you have something to rise for and reach for, So I can't expect my son to be greater than me, but that's what I'm telling him to be. He has to see me being greatness in order for him to understand that is possible for him. And I also see the same thing in leadership. You had a lot of our people, if you study our history, that they fell off when leadership fell off. When we allowed our enemy to come in and infiltrate and dismantle us in certain organizations and certain groups, the people fell because they viewed the person as being like, if this person is going to fall, I can fall. My thing is this, right? I follow our ancestors. I understand. That the ideology and the cultural understanding gives me my guidance. It keeps me rooted and it keeps me centered. So even if one of my brothers that I am following is a little shaky, I'm strong on my path where I can actually give them some insight to be able to help balance them out. And that's how we're supposed to do. Our leaders should be able to have people that they can depend on to be able to take over tasks that they don't have the time to handle. But if we put everything on our leadership, what happens? They might fold. The weight might be too much. Just some thoughts.
Let me pop this in there real quick to that question. Then you can jump in there, Tommy. I know you got ready to get in. And I want to make this very clear. Just because a person has followers doesn't make that person a leader. And oftentimes that's the way we are viewing it. We view it because a person has followers, we think that qualifies him or her as a leader, and it doesn't. That's just a person who has followers. See, we got to understand that the leadership is beyond followers. It's not contingent upon followers. Right? There's a vision that's involved in a leader. A leader has a vision. And African Black leadership is grounded in our way. And we pull from our way as we move forward to do the work that needs to be done. So once again, leadership is service. It's exceptional performance. That's the quality of the leadership that we are talking about, because we have to always create what our standard is. And for us, Black leadership must be exceptional performance in terms of service for Black people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, a baby for Hodier, Bobby Rudy. I'm glad you hopped on the live. I was actually looking at the comments, and the brother Ifa Bamila, he popped in that question of what characteristics should a leader have. So I know we've been touching on that. What I will pinpoint is, especially since we're talking about Black leadership, right? Black leadership has that vision that Baba mentioned about, that social responsibility, and that social obligation. So when we're talking about leaders, and this is one of the things that I would say that a leader has to go through a time period of training as well, right? So as I'm going through my time period of leadership training within PLM, there are certain things that my vision becomes shaped around and towards based on the community experience and the community engagement that I have within PLM. So the leader is responsible for the well-being of the group or this people. And if you look into our ancestors, there are certain principles of ethics. And even within PLM, there are certain principles of ethics that a leader must exhibit. So for one, I'll compare the two, right? So when it comes to ancestorhood, what we've been able to find and uncover is that a person in a position of leadership is considered to be one who is likened to or close with the creator. Now, you may call that creator Mwari. You may call that creator Oludumare. There's a lot of different names that it can assume, but a particular leader has the responsibility of living or being Ma'at.
That's right.
A leader has the responsibility of being or living Iwa Pele.
That's right.
Having that gentle character, having that upright character, moral character. So now let's transition into something which may be more specific towards a group. So if we're looking at a group, especially our particular group, we can go no further than our literature, PLM literature. And what does our literature say in terms of ethics? The ethics says that if my actions do not further this push towards sovereignty, then my actions or my behavior is no good.
That's right.
So then I must tailor my priorities. I must tailor my behavior towards pushing the revolutionary momentum, because that's the only way to get us free. The ethics says that my behavior, and mind you, this is thought as well. So my thought and my behavior must push my organization to grow it and to develop it. So when we have a person out in the world who is self-centered, right? They're not particularly growing anything outside of them. They don't fall within our realm of ethics. They don't fall within our realm of how we define a leader. Now, we do have a special categorization for them, but leadership is not the categorization for them. So just to stick on that principle of ethics, that is something that we can look at when we say how, what is a leader? That is a leader. Now, how do you know? The second part is how can people know a real leader from a fake leader, if I remember that correctly? So if you're talking about fake leadership, we have certain designations for that, right? In our experience, at least in our literature, we have what? We have the demigod, the self-centered, self-grandized person, the person who presents himself or herself as being the one, the it, the solution. You have who you have. You have the charlatan, the person who is presenting themselves within this movement, but doing it from a position of trying to build their own pockets, line their own pockets, line their own self-interest. Then you got your typical rabble rouser, which is the person who do a whole lot of yapping. They'll fuss somebody out. You know what I mean? You go to any event, you find them cussing, hollering up a storm. But when it comes to the building work, they're not doing that building work. And that building work is typically something where you are having a conversation with somebody 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes that conversation might last until the early morning, just to make sure that the person is settled, a person is spiritually and mentally at a good place to get them from point A to point B. And that point A to point B is just maybe learning a lesson from a particular life event. See, that's the work that leaders take on. That's really not spoken of. Leaders is making sure that everyone from the elders to the Watoto is taken care of. So you might have to go out, get a plate for the elders, see what the elders need. You know what I mean? Take off of your job to go check in on somebody. Leadership work. Leadership work is something simple, like going out and promoting your organization. You're part of PLM, you're promoting the Race First rally. If you're in PLM, you're promoting the Black Conscious Lecture Series. You're promoting Watoto Development Center. So we're promoting these things to grow our organization, to grow Black consciousness. Just to give a hint, I don't want to drop too much because I'd be going all night if I did all that, but just to put a plug in it.
I think you hit it. You know, we gotta be able to clarify what leadership is and what it looks like and what it's supposed to produce. You know, and my thing is, if it's not producing, right, then it's just talk. You know, and if you're not producing, you know, people that are following in a process of development where you see the results, you see schools being built, you see children being taught, you see programs being developed, you see them being executed, you know, you see the work with the elders as you spoke to, you know, you see, you know, men on Vanguard, you see you see mamas, you know, putting in work and you see the development of the nation, even in the smaller spaces, because the people are doing the work, right? That speaks about great leadership. When the people, are thriving and becoming greater, is a result of the leadership that is in place. When the people that ruin and they're going in each other's throat, when they're dissatisfied, when they're backbiting and all those things are going on, it speaks to leadership, you know? And what we have to do is we have to understand, that some people just want to be in a position of a title. Some people just want a title. Some people just want to be recognized and have a clout and be that I'm doing this and I'm doing that. I've never asked for leadership. I've never asked to be in leadership. I just show up and do the work, you know? And the reason why is because I'm good with just doing the work. I'm good with being there. I'm good with seeing the growth. I'm good with interacting with the children. I'm good with, building with the brothers. I'm good with, whatever needs to be done. And that's qualities of leadership. You got to be a leader in your own life before you can be a leader for other people. If your life all over the place, how you expect to be able to lead anybody else? And the people reflect their leadership. And as I look, PLM, I know how you live, Tommy. I know how my comrades live. I know how they move. And we building families. We building community. And that has to be the process. It definitely has to be the process. But it's essential because character speaks a lot to it. So my question is, how important is character development to leadership?
So, no, that's Tameen just hit it actually on his way out. He hit it on his way out. And that's the conversation that's not had enough. That's the conversation that's not had enough. the importance of character.
Bob is like frozen a little bit.
Character.
Yeah, it's coming in on my end too. You're a little staticky, Bob.
We are, and looking at the world from our world view, we're going to speak our unique truth. And when we speak our unique truth, because we think our unique truth, we're going to be our unique truth. And for us to be human is to be righteous. So it goes once again back to what Tommy was talking about. See, for us, we must, in fact, function as ma'at. We must think ma'at, speak ma'at, and be ma'at. And in being ma'at, we must do what? Hold back isfet. We must keep isfet out of our space. We must keep isfet in check. That's the task of the leader. So the individual who have been handed the assignment of leadership, not because he or she was seeking it, because it fell in his or her lap, because he or she have been doing the work. And when you're doing the work and it falls in your lap, you assume the charge. So when you assume the charge and you take on this leadership, it becomes your responsibility to uphold ma'at and keep isfat out of the space that you're operating within and the larger space that you are seeking to build for you and your people. Isfat can't be there. And the leader has to be the one that's leading the charge because he or she must show the way. And once again, leadership is high functioning performance. It's exceptional. We must understand that. It's not about followers. It's exceptional performance that renders you the Black leader in terms of your work ethic, your study habits, right? Your behavior, being consistently engaged in a process of transformation, human transformation. So to your point, how important is character in all of that? Character is everything. It's everything. It goes back to the ethic that Tommy was talking about. Our morality, our integrity is at the center of what it means to be a Black leader. There is no true Black leadership devoid of integrity and morality. You can't profess to be a Black leader and you have ugly character, you have stinking character. You know, what leader are you? You know what I'm saying? We lead by way of our character. If your character stink, what makes you think you're a leader? Because other people don't smell your junk and they following you? No, you're not a leader. And that's the reason why it's very important that we raise the question the way that we are raising the question so everybody can hear and understand that leadership is qualified. It's qualified. Right? It's not just a position. It's not because, well, you just step into this place. It's qualified. You have to show up. You can't be, that's like Bob Imhotep on the front line talking about the necessity of Black familyhood. I'm pushing that, making it sound real good. Well, you know we need to build a Black family. The Black family is at the core. But yeah, I'm not even building my own Black family. I'm falling apart with my wife. I'm not building with my children. But yeah, y'all people still let me run around and lecture on lecture circuits and act like I'm some type of leader. And I'm teaching on things that I'm not even living. That's that charlatan that you was just talking about.
Yeah.
That's that charlatan. Because if you understood anything about leadership, you know that at the core of leadership is your character.
That's right.
It's your character. That requires you to be honest. And the honesty starts with you. It's self-honesty that allows you to be honest with other people. If you can't be honest with the person and the thing that you always spend the most time with, which is yourself, how can you be honest with anyone else outside of yourself? So if you live in a lie, then there's no way that you can be honest with the rest of us. So your character is already in question. Your integrity is no good. And when your integrity is no good, there's no leadership. That's just a person who possesses the ability to galvanize people behind him or her because he or she has something that they like. And therein lies the problem again. It ain't about liking me. It's about looking at what I'm doing. If I'm doing what's right for us, then you should model that. It's simple as that. You should like me based on my consistency and my authenticity and my love for the people. You should like me on the basis of that. Don't like me because I can put my words together well. Don't like me because I can dress good. Don't like me because of that. Don't like me because I wear flashy clothes. Like me on the basis of my performance to Black people. And that's what leadership is all about.
Mm.
Look, Jean-Jacques Dessalines said, he said, what do I care for the opinions of my contemporaries or future generations? I have done my duty. I think that speaks to him as the leader. He said, I've done my duty. I saw another, what's it? This is the organization leadership and paradigm of this African model. Thank you, Baba.
Appreciate
it. Ashe. I saw what's that question by 77? Yeah. Is it possible that the collective is the leadership and that the elected is the servant representative of the collective? I see what you're saying, right? I think I understand, and I think that especially when we're coming from our perspective, it's a relationship that's based in reciprocity. So in that case, I would say sure, but to directly answer your question, I would say no. And I'm open to being corrected. But when we're looking at the responsibility that needs to be executed, right? That responsibility that needs to be executed. Now we're talking about sovereignty, right? We're talking about raising Black consciousness so that Black consciousness can channel itself into a powerful enough energy to execute a war, a physical war now, in order to obtain sovereignty and freedom from a people who have a long-standing obsession to oppress us.
Mm.
When it comes to something like that, I would definitely have to say that you need that person, that one particular person who is the leader that can lead the charge to help galvanize and to tailor the direction of the masses of the people. Now, in the African worldview, the people and the leader are intimately connected, they're intertwined, because the people are looking for the leader to be the living representation of their aspirations. So if you're looking for that leader to be the living representation of your aspirations, then what you can have and what, and has existed in African society is that if the leader fails to do so, then the people have the opportunity and the ability to run that leader up out of the nation of the society. So Baba actually made that comment when we was in a lecture in North Carolina, and we were talking about this topic right here, leadership. And when it comes to that particular that ego-starved person who wants to be popular, or that particular person who is well liked and who has followers who may follow that person because they can put their words together very nicely, that person who behind the scenes does not live the same life that they promote when they have all the lights and the cameras in front of them, you see a person like that, then it becomes the responsibility of the people to push that person out, to run that person either out the movement or to run that person out of their particular location. So if you got a person like that ego-starved person who has a life behind the scenes that does not match up to what they promote in front of the camera, then and let's say they go and do a lecture in Baltimore. You see, then it becomes necessary for the people in Baltimore to run that particular person out. So in that case, the people can have a leadership role. But when it comes to having a movement that is geared towards, let's say, a thorough process of moving people, of educating people, of building people, of raising consciousness, of building families, so you can build communities, so you can build economic systems, so you can build military systems, and then funnel all those efforts and initiatives towards a particular end goal, and that end goal is African sovereignty. You need a person, or you need specific people who are capable of executing that task as leaders. That is my position. I'm open and stand to be corrected.
I think did an excellent breakdown. I agree. You know, I don't think it gets no clearer than that. You know, it is a hand-in-hand thing, relationship. You know, reciprocity, what you led with is that when leadership is moving in the way in the interest of the people move in the interest of supporting the leadership. And it creates that balance and that harmony, and it brings about the growth that is needed for us to be able to reach African sovereignty. We can't have African sovereignty when we're at odds with our people. You know, and that's the reason why we're struggling so hard. I mean, in America, is because our people are constantly at odds with each other. We're not at odds with our enemy. We're not at odds with Europeans. We're at odds with each other. You know, so when you have authentic leadership that is stepping in to try to guide the things that our enemy has implemented to slow us up, gets in the way of us being able to galvanize, like you said, our people. You know, so that's the work that we got to do. Being able to win over the trust of our people, being able to gain the loyalty of our people by doing the work and being consistent and unwavering who we are. I had a brother one time. This brother watched me for like 7 years before he was like, all right, man, I'm ready to learn. I'm like, what? He was like, man, you know, I've been around people that talk that, man, but, you know, I know you really about it. And I'm like, it took 7 years, man, of you watching me. But you be able to say, yeah, you really about it. But you don't know the depth of deception, hurt, things like that a person has been through because of this culture that we shouldn't be living, that we are living, right? These ideologies that we practicing that ain't for us. So when doing the work, we really like out there, you know, living on McCullough, you know, dealing hand to hand with people, I mean, that struggling with drug addictions and people out there, you know, struggling to pay their bills. And you telling a brother like, look, man, you know, I got you, man, read this book. And he like, that ain't gonna pay the bills, bro, you know? But the reality is that the more consistent you are and they see that you're growing from that consistency, the more interest people gain in it, you know? That's why the Panthers were so powerful when they came out. Because when they stepped out, they were doing things so consistently. You know, they had the breakfast thing going on. They had the free medical care. They were providing things for the people, right? That showed that they really had the interest in the love for the people. And that created the trust, but that also created the growth because at the time we were so outnumbered. Oppression was so thick. But today, people can jump on social media and be anybody they want. They can sell any dreams that they want to people, you know, and rock our people to sleep. When the real work that need to be done is us coming together and recognizing that we African, you know, and we must live, conduct, study, pray, practice, eat, socialize, everything African in order for us to be able to create that galvanization to come together as a people to create their sovereignty.
I think Baba Baruti mirrors, I think what you were saying mirrors what Bible's sentiments. You know, he said righteous leadership by example elevates the character of the group. That dynamic does not change. Yeah. What changes is the character of the group, which in their work to become what the leader models becomes the model of leadership for other groups who aspire to be righteous. So it's reciprocal and it's intimately together. And like you say, the leader is the model of the group. And then as the leader models, then the group aspire to be as the leader. And then as the group takes on that model, the group in turn become a model itself for others, right? And that's what it's all about. That's the work that has to be done because, you know, to a great extent, we have to change the basis of the relationships that exist amongst us. And we have to elevate the quality of those relationships. We have to elevate the quality of those relationships. And there have to be hardcore, serious standards that we must aspire to. Nothing should just be thought of in the sense that you can just become this thing. Like leadership comes out of the people, and subsequently that leadership impacts the people and become one with the people. So it works that way. It works that way. And so people ask questions a lot of times about, what should I be looking for in a leader? They look for things like that. And then you got people that say, well, we don't need leaders. That's another thing I want to address.
I heard that. I've been hearing that a lot lately.
They say we don't need leaders. And I think they say that because we misunderstand true leadership.
Yeah.
We say we don't need leaders. So granted, yes, each and every individual, black man and black woman, should be developed enough to lead him or herself. No doubt, hands down. We should be developed enough to do that. But in terms of, moving people forward to get to sovereignty, we need the leadership. That's not to say we talk about one person. I think we're not saying that. We're saying we need leadership. And that leadership is collective, but not necessarily collective in the sense that all those leaders are in the same house. But you have multiple different leaders that's working on different fronts to push us forward. To say we don't need leaders, that's a wrong analysis. That analysis is incorrect. We need vision. We need vision. We need people who serve, and we need people who are working so much on themselves that they present a model for others to aspire to. Everybody isn't self-motivated. Leaders are. Everybody isn't self-motivated. Leaders are. Everybody don't have the capacity to endure, letdowns and people abandoning you. Leaders possess that. So that's stuff that leaders possess that the common person don't possess. There are things that are necessary in leadership that everybody don't possess. So to keep saying we don't need leaders, that analysis is incorrect for the job that we need to do. History bears witness to that. History tells us that we need leaders. When we look at our story, we've always had men and women who moved to the forefront, but yet we've also had bodies of black people that moved as these leaders moved and moved with them. But we've never can come across a point in time where we haven't had any form of a leadership. Whether you talk about the collective elders, they serve as a leadership. We've always had that. So to say that, well, we don't need leaders, that analysis is incorrect. And we have to stop saying that. We're not saying that we want you to be flunkies. We don't want flunkies. We don't want sycophants and things. That's not what we're saying. We're not arguing for that. They think we argue. We're not arguing for that. I'm not arguing for flunkies. No, right. We're making an analysis of who we are and where we at and what needs to be done. And in doing this work, you need leaders, man. They're just things. It's like I'll give you another example. Leaders are the last ones standing when everybody else say I'm tired and they leave the battlefield. The leader is still on the battlefield. The leader is the one that you will say, well, he's righteously insane or she's righteously insane, right? Because against all odds, the leader is going up against the mountain. That's the leader. Everybody not going to do that. That's what the leader is going to do. The leader is the one that's going to put the boulder on his back or on her back and say, you know what? I can walk up that mountain because at the top of that mountain is sovereignty. And I prefer to take my chances going up this mountain with this boulder on my back than to lay down at the foot of this mountain in enslavement. That's what the leader is going to do. Everybody isn't going to do that. So we can't keep on saying we don't need leaders. It's a false analysis.
Hotep, Bob. Hey, so I'm listening to everything you're saying, and what's coming to my mind is that the conditions of the people give birth to the type of leadership that is needed. For example, the things that were going on at the times of Nat Turner, the things that were going on at the time of a Harriet Tubman, the things that were going on at the time of Frederick Douglass, Patrice Lumumba, Amilcar Cabral, like those conditions gave birth. The conditions that the people were going through, the spirit gave birth to those type of leaders that were needed to change the conditions of the people. That leadership was needed to change those conditions because the people were crying out like, this got to change, and that's when you see leaders rise up. You see people rise up, you know. So, you know, when you look at it, it's like, you know, like people are constantly complaining. This is not going on. We're going through this, and it's so much of a struggle. And next thing you know, here come a leader that pops up to take the charge. And they thought Nat was crazy. But then when he started putting in work, they was like, oh, they started rallying. Same thing with Harriet. They was like, they thought she was crazy. You feel what I'm saying? She came back, though. Went out, came back. Went out, came back. You know, so when we look at our conditions, the harsher our conditions, the more seasoned the leadership that we're gonna have. You know,
and you see what Bible says. Bible says context is critical, which is true. It's basically saying what you're saying. You know, the condition that we find ourselves in, the leaders are going to rise about those conditions to address those conditions. It's simple as that. So, you know, so you're going to get a Nat Turner, you're going to get, you know, a Araminta Ross, you're going to get those Hemi Babes, you're going to get those individuals that's coming out those conditions. Then you're going to get a Malcolm, you know what I'm saying? You know, Omawale, you're going to get a Marcus Mosias Darby, you know what I'm saying? You're going to get them coming out the, you know, the context that we find ourselves in, the social, political, economic context that we find ourselves contending with. Our leadership is coming out of that. To do what? To address it, to remedy it, to eradicate those conditions so that we as a people can live what? Sovereign and prosperous and free and healthy and sane. It's hard to live with a state of serious sanity within this cesspool of insanity. Man, everybody can't do it. And that's the reason why we're starting to see the things we're starting to see. We're starting to see Black women throw their children out the window and leave their children, abandon their children. We're starting to see things that didn't exist 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? Because we are literally losing our minds. The longer we are immersed within this white insanity, we are going in absolute insanity. But so many of us are falling into insanity so rapidly that we don't even recognize that it's insanity, because now it's like it's so normal. Mother and daughter not getting along, hating one another. Mothers, you know what I'm saying, allowing, you know what I'm saying, boyfriends to rape their daughters. Like, this stuff is happening on alarming scales, right? The abuse, what they calling this crap now? I try not to learn those letters intentionally. You know what I'm saying? All these crazy other sexual perversion. I don't want to learn the letters. I don't want to learn all the names, right? I don't want to be familiar with the crap, right? But you know what I'm talking about, right? The brothers now with the painted nails and the Black women, not all of them. So let me be real clear.
Be clear.
To be real clear, not all our sisters. But there is a segment of Black women that's arguing in support of this crap. You know, brothers got their nails, they got red fingernails on, palace nails and purses and all this stuff, right? And they, you know, and they say, well, that's manhood, you know what I'm saying? Because once again, insanity is seeping in, but insanity cannot be the benchmark of who we are. We can't allow insane people in the insanity of insane people to become, you know, the standards that we use to determine who we are. So when we're talking about leadership is defined from our standpoint, no other people. So we're not necessarily talking about, for a point of clarity, we're not talking about a politician. That's not who we're talking about right now. Not unless one of these serious African sovereignists can slide in. But outside that, we're not necessarily talking about a politician. That's not the leader that we're talking about. And so people need to be clear about that, because for us, our leadership is a revolutionary leadership. It's an African sovereignist leadership. It's a Pan-Africanist leadership, a Black nationalist leadership. That's what we're talking about. It's that individual who knows that he or she is tasked with a responsibility to work in the service of his people. Whether he's going to be a writer, whether she's going to, speak for the people, whether she's going to fight for the people, whether she's going to sing for the people, whether she's going to dance for the people, whatever his or her unique skill set is, it must be placed at the service of the people. It must be weaponized for the people. So if you have divorce, then it got to be weaponized and utilized to push us forward. If you running a football, you gotta weaponize that football some kind of way in that football field and run for us. That's the leadership we're talking about. Weaponizing who and what you are to push us forward.
That's right.
And everybody can't do that. History, our stories show us that. Everybody can't do it, and many of us don't want to do
it. That's right, Bob.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth?
Man, we definitely got to, you know, because I'm letting you know now, right? We got to do this for our future. You know, our children are coming up, you know, and the reality is we don't have leadership intact, and we don't have the people creating the safe and sacred spaces. We have no room for our children to be able to grow up normal or grow up African-centered. So they grow up into that insanity that Bob was talking about. They grow up with accepting the same insane ideologies and beliefs about life. You know, our young people are all over the place right now, you know, and they don't know if they're coming or going. And it's because we're in a society that don't have our best interests. We're in a confused society that's going to produce confused people, you know, and we got to be mindful of those things, you know, because I don't want my son growing up, you know, not understanding himself, being emotionally distraught, you know, or, you know, confused about manhood. Can't do it, you know, but I need those spaces to be able to reinforce what I'm saying. So my son doesn't look out into the world and only see his father being the one promoting it. So I need a Baba Emotep. I need a Baba Tamim. I need a Wali Mubarudi. I need, you know, these people to be able to be around him to show him, I mean, that this is reality. This is our reality, you know, and that's what leadership is to provide, the safe spaces for us to grow as our authentic selves. We step outside of our front door and we at war. I know every time I step out, I got to prepare my mind and my spirit for a lot of the stuff that's going to try to attack me, you know? And then when I come home, I got to make sure I don't have nothing latched on me that I'm going to bring in the household, I mean, that's going to disrupt what I'm trying to build at home. We at war. In every sense of the word, we at war. And until we realize that, you know, we're going to constantly have casualties, unneeded casualties.
Mm-hmm. Good point, no doubt. But in terms of, to the point that you was just making, that's one of the reasons why we have to do what we do here at PLM. And that's why it's very imperative that we continuously to build, you know, an African-centered family structure and an African-centered community by way of building and fortifying an African-centered organization. That's at the heart of PLM. That's what we do. And when we do that, we've already put our young people on a path that we were not on. We've already set these young people up in a way that our young people, you know what I'm saying, Joki, Osila, you know, Inyota, Inyame, Mujasi, even Wasir and Niari, they all gonna be better. You know, Jakai, Jamil, like these young people are gonna be better than us. They're gonna be better than us. And they're supposed to be better than us because they are starting out on the path. All we have to do is to remain consistent, to continuously evolve ourselves and transform and move as close as we can back to our center and continuously do what? Be the leaders for these young people by way of being an example, showing them how to be what we know they can be, African, and they're gonna be good. So that's one of the things that I would say that's, you know, that's powerful and beautiful about this Pan-African Liberation Movement, PLM, is the family dynamic. You know, there's a lot of groups out here, but in terms of building familyhood, like that's what we're doing. We're building familyhood. You know, we're naming our children. You know, our children are being named in our naming process. They're going through our naming process. You know what I'm saying? We're developing our young boys. Our young boys are being developed by men, being developed into men through our standard of what a man is. We're educating our children. And Yota has been educated by us in our institutions. None of us had that. Mm-hmm. You know, none of us had that starting out. They got a head start, man. All we got to do is make sure we continue them on that path. They're going to be good. Continue on the path. That's it. And even when we are confronted with all the hardships that we're going to run up against, and even when other people say, well, I'm tired, man, I did as much as I can do, and they roll out, all we got to do is don't quit. Because we've already created a future. by birthing these babies that we've birthed and put on the path. We've already did that. All we got to do is keep them on the path. You know, don't worry about when things ain't going the way we think things are supposed to go. Don't worry about because everybody don't show up when they're supposed to show up. Don't worry about because this person abandoned the mission or this person aborted. Okay, that's what they done. We got to keep on going, and we got to keep our babies safe and sound. You know why? Because 10, 15, 20 years down the line, then you're going to see Oslia, you know, leading the charge. You're going to see Njoki leading the charge. You're going to see Yoda leading the charge. And Yami Mujasi leading the charge. We're going to be able to sit back and say, well, dang, man, you know, that's what it was all for. We're going to be able to see it. We're going to see them, you know, standing in their power in the fields that we put them on. We're going to see that. Like, they're going to be blooming in these unique areas and giving all that back to our people. You know why? Because of PLM. Because of PLM. That's why I never give up. And that's why I don't quit. And that's why I never say I'm tired of doing the work. Because I already see an outcome. Because I see the babies. I see the babies. I remember you, Adisa. I remember the 18-year-old Willie. I remember the young Jonathan that's now Tameen. I remember all of that, see? So I already know, I'm living the vision. I see the transformation. I remember all of you when you entered the path and where you were at and where you're at now, how strong and powerful and how understand. I remember I see your transformation. So that's why I don't quit. And in return, if you think about it, you also can see in a reciprocal way the consistency that I've given out from the time that you came in my life.
Yeah.
In a reciprocal way, you can say, you know what? But this dude, man, been the same way when I first met this guy. You know what I'm saying? And even when you first meeting somebody like me who you don't know 100%, you got your third eye on me because you're trying to make sure I'm not one of those charlatans or rabble rousers or demagogues, you know? So you got that extra eye, like you peeping, you know what I'm saying? You ain't doing it necessarily intentionally in a disrespectful way, but hey, you don't really know me. But then, you know, 10 years go by, you see, man, I gotta stop. It hurt my head. Keep on looking at that third eye. You know, this person is the same person. You know what I'm saying? I gotta let up off of him. And that's what it's all about, you know. And that's how we're gonna win. We're gonna win just like that. We're gonna win just like that. Build a family that's an institution. That's one of the most powerful institutions we have. Build a family, and we are building a family. An organizational structure. And from building that family, we build community. And from building that community, we create a model. And once we have created a model, we can do what Baba Baruti just got finished talking about. We can show other people something they can aspire to. And we can say, you know what? This is how it's done. Mm-hmm. So we're now 10:03, past our time. You know, any last thoughts before we close out, young man?
I'm like I told you, I'm here to rock. I'm ready to do what we got to do whenever we got to do it.
My only thought is, as you said, vision. I only see victory. We just got to figure out how to get there. Now we just walk the path. I only see victory. Now we just got to walk the path to get there.
That's right. I agree. I share. Well, as always, we want to give a big shout out, a big thanks to all our, men and women that tuned in tonight. Hopefully, you heard something that you can take with you. We appreciate, those of you who shared your comments and your thoughts. As always, we welcome that. Continue to join us here on the School of Urban Philosophy, where we always straight up and straightforward and straight to the point. And so next time, a BB for Hodier and race first.
BB for Hodier.
Race first.